Have you ever stopped to think that the story you tell yourself about your life isn't just a thought, but a biological reality that's actually shaping you moment by moment? Well, that's what we're diving into today, this incredible connection between our minds, our bodies, and the narratives that make us who we are. Let's get into it.
This quote just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? We're not here to shout about some big, flashy scientific discovery. Instead, we're kind of leaning in to listen to a quiet, fundamental truth about ourselves. A truth that's always there, right at the edge of our awareness, just like a whisper at dawn.
At the very heart of all this is one simple but seriously profound idea. We are narrative beings. Our lives aren't just a random series of events. We are constantly, automatically weaving every single moment into a story. It becomes this amazing, complex tapestry that is our sense of self.
So to really get a handle on this, let's explore our inner world through two really powerful metaphors that the source material gives us: the fog and the mirror.
Okay, first, the fog. We all know this feeling, right? It's that state of confusion, of disconnection, where your thoughts are just all over the place and you can't quite get a grip on how you feel. But then you have the mirror. That's our natural state. It's that moment of pure clarity, that innate ability to see ourselves honestly, clearly, without any distortion.
So the big question is, what happens when that clear reflection, that feeling of wholeness, gets completely disrupted? What causes our inner mirror to shatter into a million little pieces?
Well, it often kicks off with fear. Fear acts like a spark that just inflames our entire system. And then, ironically, in an effort to protect us, our own defenses can be the very thing that shatters our perception. But, and this is the important part, look at those last two steps. This is not a life sentence. We can be restored through something called coherence, which is just a state of internal alignment. In that restoration, it's sustained by rhythm. We're going to dig into what that means in just a minute.
Now, since fear is the thing that can shatter the mirror, it's really worth taking a closer look at it. And that brings us to this fascinating question. What is the actual difference between that feeling of anxious fear and, say, thrilling excitement?
Get this. Physiologically, inside your body, the arousal is identical. Your heart pounds, your breath gets shallow. It's the same reaction. The only difference is the story we attach to it. One story anticipates something bad is about to happen, and the other anticipates something amazing. It's the exact same shadow, just cast in a totally different light.
Okay, so how does this all actually work in our bodies? These metaphors, the mirror, the fog, the stories, they aren't just poetic ideas. They have a direct, physical home in our neurobiology. This is where the poetry really meets the physiology.
Just let that one sink in for a second. The idea that even the immune cells floating around in our brain can be seen as tiny narrators, constantly writing and rewriting a story about whether we're safe or not.
And that's exactly what they do. Microglia are like the brain's internal editors. When we're in a threat response, they start pruning away connections they think are dangerous. But, and this is so cool, when our system feels safe, they change their story. They switch roles and become messengers that basically whisper, "Hey, you're safe. It's okay. Come back online."
And the grand author of this whole inner world? That's the default mode network, or DMN. You know when your mind just wanders, maybe you're driving or taking a shower? That's the DMN kicking in. It's the source of our daydreams and creativity for sure, but it can also be the source of that anxious loop of thoughts, constantly stitching together past, present, and future into that continuous story we call me. And all of this leads to a conclusion that is just absolutely mind-blowing. Our narratives are biological instructions. The stories we tell ourselves over and over literally carve pathways in our brain. They aren't just thoughts, they are the architects of our physical reality.
So, if our mirror shatters and we find ourselves lost in that fog, how do we get back? Well, the answer isn't to fight our way out. It's about aligning with something we all already have: rhythm. The state we're aiming for is called coherence. And this isn't some vague, new agey concept. It's a measurable, physiological state where your heart, your breath, and your nervous system all sync up and start working together in harmony. It's the biological signature of that feeling of wholeness, of clarity.
In fact, it's so precise it can be measured. This state of coherence corresponds to a frequency of exactly 0.1 hertz. This is the natural rhythm of something in our body called Mayer waves, these slow, natural cycles in our blood pressure. When we hit this frequency, it's a clear signal that all our internal systems are humming along together, perfectly in tune.
So how do we get there? You're not going to believe how simple it can be. For most adults, simply breathing at a steady pace of about 12 breaths per minute is the sweet spot. It's the optimal rhythm to get your heart and your lungs in sync, and that paves the way for coherence.
And this isn't just about feeling good or calm. Rhythm has real tangible benefits for our brain. I mean, look at this. When a story is structured with rhythm, our ability to remember it can improve by a staggering 40%. Rhythm literally helps our brain organize information and lock it in. All right, so let's bring this all down to earth. How do we put all of this into practice in our daily lives? If we actually want to restore that inner mirror and find some clarity, the path is through practices that get us out of our heads and back into our bodies, back to the here and now.
And what's so beautiful about this is how simple and accessible it all is. We can just walk and be fully aware of our movement. We can breathe and consciously connect with that life-sustaining rhythm. We can name what we're experiencing, which gives it shape and clarity. We can find patterns, even simple things like rhyme, that create coherence. And maybe the most powerful of all, we can just allow ourselves to feel, to let sensation move through us without judgment.
So after this whole journey, from metaphor to microglia, from fear to frequency, what's the big takeaway? When you strip it all away, what does this tell us about who and what we really are?
We are narrative beings, spiraling through time. We are breath-linked, connected to the very rhythm of life itself. We are mirror-anchored, grounded in our own innate capacity for clarity. We are, quite simply, alive. And understanding that story, that just might be the most important one we ever learn.